Thank you very much for tuning in to Sing 24 TV, the Catch 24 show with Jacob Amos. This is a follow-up video on what we did yesterday about modesty. For those who have not watched that video, kindly go into our videos and watch it so that you may connect it. It was kind of a prequel to what we are doing now. So some viewers texted me yesterday asking me some questions pertaining to modesty according to their religions and otherwise. Well, so I decided to produce this video so that we get to clarify some things and see the other side of the aisle too. Before we get into it, ladies and gentlemen, kindly subscribe so that anytime we upload, you get that notification. We're getting to it now. Somebody sent me this a snippet of the Quran where the prophet appeals to how their women or Arabic women, well, let me say Muslim women should project themselves in public and privately. So the scripture says, "O prophet, tell your wives and daughters and the women of the believers to bring down over themselves parts of their outer garments. This is more suitable that they will be known and not be abused. And ever is Allah forgiving and merciful." Well, so when I sought some interpretation from this scripture, I realized that it's more or less telling us how women in general should be or should dress or handle themselves out there in public. If you go to yesterday's video, we referred to some scriptures that were also talking about modesty, especially in Genesis, I think chapter 3. If you read Genesis chapter 3, you'll find what we talked about. So the Jews also believe in covering themselves, same as the Christians and same as the Muslims. Christians, look at the Catholic Church. How do they wear, or how do their sisters wear? But in the past, even their women, just the congregation, were allowed or were encouraged to cover their heads or to dress in a certain kind of robe. Muslims have just kept to this, or at least most Muslims. Well, Muslims generally have kept to this. Jews, if you read about Judaism, you realize that they also believe in covering of the head. The Jewish text, sana, especially in the Bible, tells us about how their women should also dress. And even men are not left out. There's a certain dressing code for men. So it's a story time. Before we delve deep into this one, let me just tell you a little bit of a story of an alcoholic. He lives in a benign island. This guy is a drunkard and a heavy smoker. He comes to our system. He meets our doctors, and then he's told that drinking and smoking heavily is bad for his health. Immediately he's scared because nobody loves to die, or nobody would love poor health. So he stops totally. 3 weeks later, when he goes back to visit the doctor, he's told that he's suffering from acute, from a serious liver disease, and he only have about a month or two to live. This man then asks himself, why is it that I was okay all the time I was drinking and smoking, and immediately I stopped drinking courtesy to what the doctor told me? Now I'm sick and I'm dying. So this guy dedicates the rest of his life to convincing his drinking buddies and anybody that comes his way that drinking and smoking is the healthiest thing a man or woman can do, or human beings can do. Well, you get where he's coming from. If we extend this narrative into our lives today, where we've come to believe that certain sets of standards are the best, Western culture coming with a lot of revolutions into our society, where we've dropped our ways and we've adopted ways of the West. For example, more so in dressing, the way we dress today, it's influenced by Western culture. But we were discussing modesty in relation to women because they're the ones who've really moved away from their dressing codes, or at least things that we consider modest. Let's look at world leaders, presidents, Obama, Xi Jinping, and locally, let's look at President Ruto. Let's look at Kenyatta. Let's look at the Odingas. Look at their wives, how they dress. Look at their kids, how they dress. There's a certain thing that is inculcated or is associated with leadership. You shouldn't behave in a certain way. They are very conventional in their approach. They've not dropped the ways that are African, or ways that are considered modest, even as per the standard of the Bible and the Quran. Immodesty has really come into our lifestyle. It's something we've adopted, and doesn't mean that it's good. Same way to just the story of the Robinson Crusoe man, kind of, who comes from that island and believes that drinking and smoking is the best way to go, because he's been diagnosed with a serious liver disease. Same applies to us. Doesn't mean that it's good whatever we are doing now. Look at people like or women like the Kardashians. These are people who are just married because they already had something in their pockets. You cannot, it's very hard for a man to just, if you don't have you are immodest first, and you don't have something in your pockets, it's very hard for men to reach out for you in terms of marriage. They can enjoy themselves with you, they can do a lot of things with you, but when it comes to time for them to settle down with someone, they would prefer to go to modest women, if I may say. Look at our celebrities, the Betty Charlos of this world. She just, well, forgive me if you find this in bad taste for you, but we just have to tell you these things, for we are not in the seductive game of massaging you with warm butter. We just want you to get it and take it. Just analyze it or look at it critically. She's find it quite hard to settle down. Well, she was married by Dennis Okari. They tried to work things out, and then after a while, even after a kid came into the picture, now they had to divorce. She then moves to Governor Joho, a man who I believe was married by then, and they even made it public. Joho is a man who has kids, and he has a wife, and I believe God-fearing in Muslim circles. But he was engaged in this kind of extramarital affairs with this lady. She then moves to some Somali guy recently. Well, this is what we thought that now was going to actualize, and this lady is going to settle down, and she still doesn't just hasn't just managed it. And we wonder, even our clergy, by the way, in the field of promiscuity, even our clergy is failing us very much. Be they the imams in the msikiti, or our pastors or bishops in churches. It's so appalling, to the extent that some of these pastors or some of these imams are the ones who are practicing these things. Who is going to make it right if the clergy do not want now to delve into things that should at least be their forte? That is where we expect them to come in. Repeating a wrong thing doesn't make it right. They should just stick by whatever was right and keep it, and make sure that when it comes to the national stage, we have certain sets of standards that govern our society. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think that is the end of this analysis. Anybody who has any comments, please go into our comment section. If you have a question that you'd wish us to discuss in this regard, kindly go to our comment section and leave your question there. We'll get it, and then we may tackle it next time. This show, the Catch 24, is majorly going to deal with social and economic issues, not so much of politics. Politics is going to be left to the analyst. Unless we have interactive sessions, that is where myself is going to come on board to discuss politics with the nationalist. Thank you very much. Until next time.